All right, episode 95. Hey, today we're going to talk about if you think you're ready to build that real estate team, we're going to go over the do's and don'ts of building a successful and profitable real estate team.
Bash my funny bones so hard.
We're going to get started right now.
Boing.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
All right, episode 95. Today we're going to be talking about how to build a successful and profitable real estate team, the do's and don'ts. But before we get started with that, look, if you have not joined the Facebook group that we're all in, that we created, the only real estate group worth being a part of, go do that right now, because there is some breaking news I just saw.
There is some breaking news. You saw it in our group?
No.
Oh, okay. What was the breaking news?
Zillow is acquiring everything.
Zillow's acquiring everything.
Zillow just acquired Showing Time, according to another place.
What?
Yes.
I love that. I love that what we're doing right now is we're essentially taking a post from a group that we all absolutely detest because it's just filled with more slop than anything else, and we're just going to trot it out here. I love
You know what I love?
Trash.
Before we get started on that, what I love about that other real estate group, though, every single day, it seems like every other hour, someone is putting, hey, I'm looking at joining a brokerage. I'm looking at EXP,
Yes.
KW, and something else, right? And you should see just it just unhinges everybody.
Oh, why do people get? I don't know, since we're going to talk as podcast hosts, but also as people who run a large real estate Facebook group, like, stop being so butthurt about everything. Damn, man, let people ask questions and don't dude. If you just want to feel smaller than a grasshopper, just ask any basic question in a real estate Facebook group. You will get dragged through the mud, man. It's bananas how ruthless people are.
the one that we're talking. They're all pretty bad, but I will tell you that is the one where I go to fight. And there are a couple other people in there who that I know that are just always in there stirring up shit, and it's kind of hilarious.
Matt takes all of his aggression from all of his regular work, and just every once in a while he just goes and starts fights on Facebook. Just get it all out.
Somebody in the comment section. So, anyways,
So if you haven't done so, if you haven't joined the real estate group, go to the only real estate group worth being a part of, request access in there, as well as go to iTunes, leave us a review on there, subscribe, leave us a review, get those downloads going.
Yeah.
And today, like we said, we're talking about if you think you're ready to build that real estate team, right? You got some business rolling in, the market's good, you don't have any listings, right? But you got a shit ton of buyers.
Okay.
I'm hiring a buyer's agent.
That's right.
Okay.
Right? They think they're ready for that buyer's agent.
Right.
Because, you've got to be a little bit right now that Pop-Tart agent.
Sure.
Home hits the market. You need to be the first
you
one in
gotta
line,
go.
or you got to camp out overnight.
Yeah.
I'm scrambling to do that right now. Literally,
Yeah.
one that just came on. I talked to the agent. He's like, "Look, man, we got a bunch of showings. It's only been on the market for 2 hours. I don't know how long the sellers are going to have the stomach for this once
Yeah,
offers start rolling
right.
in. So I'm literally texting everybody like, who can show at 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
right. Because I
Right.
need to get my clients in this house.
So
right.
Matt's about to start a real estate team.
Like, honestly, we're at the. I've been advising people dude, just go ahead and write your offer before you show, and then don't submit it if the house doesn't work. But you need to be ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
And I wanted to bring this up, right? I asked it in the group the other day or last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever. I'm going to go back to it while in here. But I wanted to also cover y'all's, the HERG DFW's rise, right? So,
Sure.
I mean, you guys partnered up in 2018, if I remember.
19.
Was it 19?
April of, it hasn't even been 2 years.
Oh, yeah, so
dude.
2019.
2 years and a couple months.
I got the phone call while I was at the Masters,
Yeah.
right? I was at the Masters.
You were the
Bougie-
first person we
Bougie asshole.
Yeah. So
Got the phone call as I was walking down the 18th fairway, about to hit my second shot,
was
which
like-
was at the Masters.
I was like, maybe if I would have just included them to come along, maybe this would be the
I
trio.
have been invited to the Masters 0 times.
Right? That was my second year in a row, by the way. But
It's okay. His wife takes us to dinner more often than he does.
yes, and I sold my ticket last year.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah. So, but with that, you took basically, you merged over with Matt. Matt
Sure.
somewhat, No disrespect.
Bro,
So we're gonna
I've said it on this show. I was so ill prepared for the position I was in. It's just like unbelievable.
So, Brian comes in, y'all partner up, you start to build take the crumblings of what that team looked like.
Yep.
And is there anybody from that original team?
Nah.
No. All right. So basically a start over.
Yeah.
And your rise up. So there's do's and don'ts of that.
Yes.
Right? And there's people on here that have had success in 2020.
Yep.
Right? They're still probably feeling really busy because they're out showing a lot.
Yeah.
And they're probably getting some contracts going. They're having to negotiate, and they probably got their assistant or transaction coordination down. So now that natural is like, all right, let's generate some leads.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and bring some agents in.
Yep.
This is going to be easy.
And here's the thing, because you obviously have a very similar experience, and I want to dive into your story a little bit as well. We haven't really kind of talked about that in a long time. It's so hard to identify looking back, like, hey, what do you do if you want to start a team? It's so hard to answer that question because guess what? We fucking fail all the time too. We don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's if you think that you just start a real estate team and you just know what you're doing all the time and things always work out, like, that's one of the harder things to identify when you start to have a little bit of success is like what worked and what didn't. Well, what really worked is you showed up every single day and worked really hard.
But
outside of that, you fail forward over and over and over again. But
And
there's
you-
basic principles.
And
yeah.
Brian was building a team before merging, right?
exactly.
So you
So, yeah,
started.
we didn't start from the ground.
Right. So you started building that. But let's talk about number one. If you have started that, you're kind of struggling, or you're looking at starting that team. What is the main reason behind it? Why do you think that most people want to start
Sure.
a team?
I think the idea is they think that at first it's going to get them a bunch of time back, and they're going to make they're going to make more money.
they're gonna make more money.
which is the exact opposite of what happens in
not
those
be
two
less
categories.
true,
Right? You're going to work more, and you're probably going to take a little bit of a hit financially because it's just more expensive.
Yes.
Right. And then you have the disappointment of human capital, which that I will say, if you want to ask me the thing that absolutely drove me into the arms of Brian. Right, and I think it was the reason he was standing there, like because he was in the same spot.
I was in the same exact spot, dude.
It was just the sheer disappointment that I felt in other human beings' ability to just get their asses up and do what they said they were going to do. Like, I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't come from a corporate background. I'd never worked in an office environment. I was a bartender my whole life. So it's just kind of the environment. I wouldn't even know what it was like.
Yeah.
But I would say, and I think that was my response to that. You could tell me what I said, but it was just the reliance. Adam Hergenrother said this to me a while back, but he's like, the larger he's gotten, the more reliant he's become on other human beings. And I think you and Austin probably understand this at a super high level with a lot of the stuff you do between the team and the development stuff. There's a different kind of pain that comes with people letting you down, and you need to be really mentally prepared for what you're taking on, because chances are you're going to screw up a ton at first, and people are going to leave you. They're not going to see the value. You have to be able to weather all that, because even if you're doing the right thing, that's probably still going to happen.
Sure. And I think to answer the question directly,
I don't like to do that.
No. I appreciate your answer because it's you're talking about our story, which is amazing, and it's really, really meaningful to me. I think to answer it on a kind of like a baseline level, why should you start a team, or what are the reasons for starting a real estate team? If you're a talented person, then making more money, sure, can be the reason you start a real estate team, I guess. Or not doing the things that you don't want to do anymore can be a reason, I guess. Realistically, when you get rid of the things that you don't want to do anymore, I guarantee you at some point in your business, a whole bunch more stuff that you don't want to do anymore shows up as well, as you build that team. And sure, you can make more money. You can also lose a lot of money. It's like anything else. You're investing in other people. You're investing in your own brand, your own company, and all that type of stuff. The reason to start a real estate team is because you fundamentally have a desire to succeed through others. And I think that is a combination of humility. I think it is a combination of sort of a special type of personality that when we say taking risks and things like that, I don't think people really understand what they mean when people say taking risks. You're taking risks on other people and on yourself, meaning like we especially in the beginning, we would just, anybody who wanted to join us, we were just begging them to. Like, we just figured if we got enough people in one room, we would make money. We were way wrong about that. Now we actually have really pretty serious standards for being a culture fit and things like that. So you need to have a genuine desire to succeed through others, and then also be able to back that shit up, because it's pretty hard in the beginning to succeed through others, because it's just you're building something from the ground up. It's very, very difficult, and you have to get over your desire to just build and grow really fast.
Well, I think that number one, the depending on what brokerage you're with, right? I think there is some status symbol why people want to start a team.
Oh,
right?
dude, it's the same reason everybody who trades Bitcoin is like the CEO of something on Facebook. They're like CEO of Brian Industries or some shit. You know, it feels cool. It feels cool. Sure.
Yeah. And so with that, you know, usually there's some pressure there. Maybe they want that ego award or whatever it is.
Sure.
So, you know, I would say if that's your reason for doing so, don't do it.
Please don't do it.
Because here's what ends up happening is that you start to recruit people in.
Yeah.
All right, agents come on in, you know, I want to join, you know, agents want to join with somebody who's successful as an individual agent. Maybe they can learn a lot. You know, agents joining a small team think that, all right, there's going to be more abundance of leads that are going to go to them. But I always say from there, the do's and don'ts really is that, one, you're still competing as an agent, a team member, with the main agent, the team owner, the team leader. It's like going to a boutique brokerage. I was on a call today with an agent out in East Texas who was looking at, joining our network versus joining the small boutique.
Okay.
And the boutique broker is the main producer.
Yeah.
And I was like, so how do you think that's going to go down?
Yeah.
Are you building your brand or their brand?
You're essentially joining a competitor.
Yes. And so, you know, are they generating leads for you or for them?
Yeah.
Are you getting the scraps or are you getting the main meal?
Yeah. And
Right?
I think that's kind of step one if we want to talk about really like kind of the mindset around building a team. You just hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of people think that if they're going to be a team leader, they need to figure out a way, like, if I could just recruit agents and generate a lot of leads, I'm good, right? We generate a lot of leads for our agents, but I would say that is not even close to our main value proposition. I think to build a team, if you want to have it in your mind, whenever you start to build a team, it needs to start with leverage. It's a better value proposition for me to say, hey, I am going to double your dollar productive hours by taking all of these things off your plate and allowing you to be your best you and only do things that make you money. If people don't understand that and what that's going to do for their business, you may not be looking at the right people to partner with.
Right.
And that might not be true for everybody, but I think that's true maybe as a general rule of thumb. You want to work with people that understand that leverage and their time is way more important than your ability to just generate online leads or whatever. We do a ton of that too. But
Hold that thought. We need the breaking news sounder.
Jesse, do it. There's a mic right there.
So PR Newswire, Zillow Group to acquire ShowingTime, the industry leader in home touring technology.
Okay, so let's pause collectively for everybody to freak out.
Everybody go
and
crazy.
start bringing up conspiracy theories about how now Zillow's not going to allow us to show homes. They're going to control all the lock boxes.
They're going to shut you out.
I'm going to tell you
Their
right
own
now,
listings.
look, we've got some people listening to this, and we'll have people listening to the recording. I want you to be better. Everybody who hears this, I want you to be better than all of the numbnuts who go online and freak out every time Zillow does something.
Here's the thing. New business
So
idea.
silly.
We're scrapping the teams. We're starting a new ShowingTime because ShowingTime was acquired for $500 million.
Man. Here's the
What?
thing.
It's basically Calendly.
How can it be worth so much money when so few agents actually decide to use it?
That's so true.
I will tell you, in
man.
Dallas, it's really easy. But I had 3 today that I had to show, that I had to text. I was showing a little bit further out that I had to text the agents for. Nick was talking about his experience buying the lake house, how it was so difficult to get into houses. I saw a post in that same shitty group that we were talking about earlier today, where somebody was talking about like how an agent chewed them out for calling them late at night, and I was like, well, yeah, you probably shouldn't have called the agent. But at the same time, like, guess what? You don't have to worry about if you use ShowingTime.
If you just do what everyone else.
Just people can just schedule showings, bro.
I will say this. I think people are going to probably freak out about this. I'm going to just put this out there because this might be the only time I actually challenge people online in our own group. If you post in our group some bullshit about how this is going to ruin the industry or something, that's fine. I'm an open-minded person. I like to have conversations. Understand if you post something like that in our group, I will require you to have a cohesive argument, start to finish, on how this is bad for you. Otherwise, I'll delete your shit and probably burn your house
So
down.
join the only real
I
estate.
won't do that.
So join the only real estate group we're being a part of.
Yeah.
And test Brian. We're gonna end the show.
Try me.
And Foster and like 3 other the people in our group who are just constantly stirring up shit are gonna
They're
post a bunch of links.
100% going to do it.
So, but I agree. To go back to your point, I agree about the leverage, right? If you're selling, and look, I'm starting to see brokerages do it where they're selling leads. They're selling on joining because we can help you. We're generating leads for you. And look, that's the that's the easiest thing to generate. That's the easiest thing to put out
I will
there.
tell you this. If you have $200 a month as an individual agent, I can prove to you that I can generate 100 leads for you a month at $2 a lead. And they will be qualified leads that came directly to your website and voluntarily gave you their information in search of a real estate transaction. They're not all going to close, obviously. I'm just giving you an example of how easy it is to generate leads.
Right. So if that's the case, they're coming to you for leads. That means they're hurting for money right now.
Yes.
Right. They start making some money. What do you think happens?
Oh, they think that they all of a sudden put their cape back on
Yeah.
and fly
They
away.
go,
thinking
well,
they're
if it was this
Superman.
easy, yeah.
They start bitching about the splits.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this split here is not good.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not really making any money.
Right.
Well, how much money were you making before?
Yeah.
Right. And so, but you've sold 20, 25, 30 houses
Sure.
this year because of the leads, the systems, the accountability, the
Right.
structure, the training. Oh, but that's not good.
I will say it's funny because you talk about how the journey has changed even in the short 2 years that Brian and I've been together. I think this is a perfect example of it. The types of conversations, and Nick warned us about this because he was years down the path.
100%
The
said
types
this
of
exact same thing.
conversations that we were having early on, and the types of conversations that we were welcoming, right? Because again, we were coming from a place of scarcity and just needing
Yeah.
to partner with somebody to legitimize the fact that it said team, right?
Yeah.
After our name.
Group or team or something.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
So it's like the type of people we partner with, to where we had a conversation the other day about somebody where we were like, hey, look, man, is this the best move for us? Like, do we
Yeah.
even need this person?
Yeah.
Right? To the point where, like, dude, I can tell you right now, a year ago, there's no way we were having that conversation.
No.
Right? It was kind of like, hey, look, you're interested in joining, we'll take a flyer on you.
Yeah.
Now I met with somebody the other day that we decided against just after one lunch. I was like, look, that's not where we're at anymore.
Yeah, we have enough experience now to know what's going to be a fit.
That's one of the big things that can happen through being a little bit more disciplined up front. Because the other thing that Brian and I are very similar is we're both super emotional when we're disappointed or get our feelings hurt, right? So the constant loss of opportunity, that wears you out. Just think about when you're an individual agent and you want to start a team because you're probably dropping the ball on a couple of things, right? The disappointment that comes along with that. Now imagine that disappointment with the money already being spent. And then that person coming to you and being like, nah, you know what? I don't really see value in this shit you've worked so hard on.
That's one of the
Or,
hardest things. Yeah.
or you've spent, you get someone in and you spend time talking to them 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and
Yeah.
you pour into them and and then they call you. They don't even call you. They're like, they send you a text like, hey, I'm out. Right, I'm going to go do this on my own.
Yep.
Right. And you're like, remember when I spent 2 hours with you away from my family?
Oh, yeah.
When we were having a heart-to-heart and you were talking about quitting the business, and now you're on the right success path, and you're like, and all you can do is send a text.
Yep.
And more than likely you started to set things up. While we were having that talk, you were setting things up to put that ball in motion, and you didn't have the respect to have a phone call or in person.
I think that obviously you're 100% right. And it's heartbreaking, and it will happen to
Yeah.
you when you start a team, right? The way to, I think, neutralize that feeling or that conversation is the mindset that you want to have when you go into team building is, what type of value can you provide that any agent or any professional couldn't go out and just replicate themselves? And that's why the lead conversation is really, really terrible, because if you just provide leads, anybody can go do that on their own, right? One of our our main value proposition is we have spent years dialing in the operations side, the marketing side, the listing management side, the transaction management, everything that goes into you only having to do with the things that legitimately add money to your bottom line. And then what happens is, and that's how I neutralize that conversation, is that conversation still happens sometimes. We've had people leave us even recently, right? That conversation is much less frustrating when you realize that when somebody has that conversation with you, when you're legitimately providing real value to them, it doesn't hurt you because it's more of a reflection on them than it is on you. When I can sit here and go, well, we got people making over $300,000 in our system a year, every year. If you don't think there's value, I would love for you to go prove me wrong. More often than not, they do not, right? But it's really hurtful when you know there's some truth to it. In the beginning, there's probably going to be some truth to it because your business isn't refined yet. You don't have that value proposition yet, and it really effing hurts.
Yeah. But I
When
think it's
you-
more
when you-
about the time, though, right? So
Yeah,
you look at it.
yeah, when you
so
invest time in
is
people.
valuable, and that was the biggest thing that I learned from the beginning. I don't have that problem now because look, I already know. I typically know what's happening before it's happened on
Sure.
that. But it was more about, all right, you spend this time, and then they do that,
Yeah.
right? And you're trying to one. What are you trying to do? You're trying to build it yourself, right? You took probably a pay cut. Right, you started putting all these systems and policies and procedures in place, not for you, for them, right? And that's what comes back. And so Lauren Sandoval, and when we asked this question, and the only real estate group worth being a part of, she said, have your processes in place before adding members to your team,
That's exactly what it is.
right? Yes.
So what's some practical, because here's the thing is, I will tell you that was obviously suggested to me. Part of the reason why I joined the expansion model was to eliminate some of those hurdles a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Like initially. But the reality is, what is the actionable part of that? Because it's really great to say have processes put in place. Well, if you don't know what the processes are for 5 agents to run efficiently, then like that's just impossible, right?
I think this is where there's so many ways to skin a cat, and this is where we can throw out some actionable advice, but this comes down to your personal attributes and your strengths and weaknesses, right? Like one of the reasons that we were able to kind of catch lightning in a bottle a little bit when we partnered is because we really found our person, right? The person that was going to offset our disadvantages and really, really heighten our advantages. There's some base level examples though. One, if you're still doing anything during the transaction process that is not a dollar productive activity, you're not ready to start a team. Because that shit right there will make you lose people. You have got to at least have your transaction management down. Probably after that comes listing management. And I think if you have listing management and transaction management, that's probably a great way where you could start looking at bringing on your first couple of agents, right? From there, your value proposition is really you and what you're capable of, right? The reality is one of our value propositions, and one of the reasons that we work so well, is we have a dude who's always going to do at least $17 million a year in production that is also going to be there to walk you through your shit all the time and just be kind of your awesome, super wise uncle that throws you over his shoulder and helps you, because this can be a very dark industry at times and you need somebody to help you, right? And then that's offset as well by one of my strengths is I just have one of those minds that can visualize systems and put them in place, right? Like we are constantly refining and adding and doing the things like making things better and more resources and stuff. And so there's many different paths. The things to take away initially is it doesn't start with leads, it starts with leverage. And if you don't have the ability think about it this way. Our value proposition to our agents is you will only focus on 5 things, right? That's generating appointments, going on appointments, negotiating agreements, negotiating contracts, and negotiating repairs. If you're doing anything else besides that, you're not doing a dollar productive activity. How you work that in can take many different forms, but it starts with that being true for you. So if that's not true for you yet, you're not ready to start a team. So if you're ready to start a team, ask yourself that. Do I do anything in my day that isn't one of those 5 things? And if I do, how do I leverage myself out of that in a fashion that I can translate to other people as well?
So it's more about the duplicatable processes,
yeah, exactly.
right? So are your systems duplicatable, or does it only work for like Matt Kelderman, right? Are you built? Is your business built entirely on Sphere and your network, right? Is that truly duplicatable? Could a Brian and I, could we go into a high Sphere related business team?
Yeah.
And succeed there.
But here's the thing, I think you can.
Well,
Because even if you're super heavily Sphere based, that's just lead generation. Your value proposition is, okay, go focus on your Sphere. We'll handle everything else.
Sure.
Yeah, I disagree on that though. I highly disagree because here's the thing: the people that are building a team that are highly sphere, they built years to get their sphere, right? Someone like you and I who come in at 24 years old, they're not working their sphere, or they're not understanding, because the team leader typically is like, well, I just do this, or I go and play bunco, or I go have drinks, or I go do that, and your systems aren't duplicatable on that.
It becomes that becomes a culture fit conversation then, because yes, the agent you're talking about is the agent who is working their sphere but really only wants to work their sphere and doesn't want to do anything more than they're already doing.
Right.
That's a difficult conversation. The agent that is currently working mostly sphere but would like to, one, generate more business from that sphere, and two, add external lead generation sources or lead sources and deal sources that are outside the sphere, that's your conversation.
Now,
but the agent you're talking about, I get that.
Yeah,
right?
like maybe you put systems and procedures in place, like, hey, we're a sphere-related business. We're looking for people that are social butterflies. Yeah. You like to be in part of groups. You like to stand out in a room. You like to move around, shake hands, play the politician.
Yeah.
We're looking for that because our systems, policies, procedures we have in places with our client events or community events, our educational videos that we send out, it's going to be branded to you, so that they're coming back to you. That's how it will work. But the problem is, if you're just now starting that team out, do you actually have those down?
Well, that was the biggest problem that I had, right?
Yeah.
So I was recruiting essentially through classes I was teaching in the market center. In those classes, I was talking about stuff that I wasn't really doing, right? Not that I was like, I didn't have this, they worked, right? And I had done them, but they weren't things that it was very similar to like when you go see somebody coaching about a process that they don't even use anymore, right? But they're still like selling it. It's like, it's so great, why they don't use it anymore? Yeah. Like that was the whole thing. And to Nick's point, when you were talking about the culture of partnering with people, I couldn't train people to do what I was doing, right? Yeah. The way my lead generation worked, in massive quotation marks, right, was like, I didn't really do anything that was structured. I didn't do anything that was scripted. So agents coming on needing real guidance, real assistance, I failed them. Yeah. Because I wasn't incredibly scripted and guided. And
I mean, that's and to speak to both of those points, that is the process of building a team, and that is kind of the stark reality of building a team. Is where when you're talking about, the reason you disagree with me is because you're talking about starting a team, right? Right now, where both of our teams are at right now, you probably wouldn't disagree with me. There might be some conversations about different things, maybe splits or something like that on certain things or whatever. And quite frankly, we have a lot of really established agents that partner with us, and I've got to have some conversations with them about, certain lead sources and stuff that they've been working for years and things like that. But we now have the value prop that even really, really experienced and high producing agents want to join us. And we're blessed to have that. But of course, that didn't happen in the beginning. And to speak to that in realistic terms, this maybe is something like I get off on tangents about this shit because I think that maybe I'm a little self-conscious about the image that we put forward. Like, understand some of the stuff that you go through, that you went through, that we've gone through. Yes, what you're talking about with being able to recruit really great agents that are maybe big sphere based, or really, really good producers, or people that really buy into your value proposition. If you're thinking of starting a team, this is the reality. That will not happen in the beginning. What will happen in the beginning is you will bring on a bunch of brand new agents, because that's all you can really recruit. 87% of them will fail you. It will break your heart. You will sit alone in an office wondering if this is for you. You're starting real estate all over again. And I just want to put that out there, because I know that, look, we do a podcast and we wear our hats backwards and drink White Claws. The reality is, man, you know how fucking hard we work for this shit, man? It's tough. It's super tough.
Yes.
So I say that to say that all the stuff we're talking about, it's a progression. There's levels to this stuff, Starting out, don't judge yourself. Think about leverage first. Be the best, value proposition you can be, but also understand you're starting over. If you've been in real estate for 6, 7, 8 years and now you're starting a team, this is now year one of your real estate career, and you've got to treat it that way. I think ego is a big part of it. Matt and I had to really get over a lot of ego stuff when we joined Business Partners, because I had to admit there was a lot of stuff I couldn't do. And I think he had to admit there was a lot of stuff that he couldn't do.
The thing about it was really interesting, and I think, again, part of the reason why our relationship works so well, because, and I've said this on the show before, I am competitive to a point, But Brian, I was looking for help, right? Like I had recognized long before that I was struggling in the role and dying a slow, agonizing, like slow bleed out type of financial death. And so it wasn't really hard to decide on the partnership. I was looking more for somebody to rescue me. I think I had to step up my game more, right? Like I came into our relationship looking at Brian as he was going to save me, right? So I had to kind of realize like, hey, this dude's here also because he's looking for somebody to do their part, right?
Same thing.
And so I had to kind of almost step up and take some responsibility for some stuff that I didn't really want to, because I was kind of in that mindset he's talking about. I was like, I've sold a bunch of real estate. I make money. I should be able to coast. Right?
People should
what
just
I mean?
know what I've done and just join me.
So you talk about something on there where you sold a bunch of real estate, you can just coast, right?
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot when people start the team, is that they don't want to work they don't want to put that extra 24 hours in.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're burnt. They're already burnt out from the years of starting out as an individual. And then you're starting over. Now you've got these new agents coming in, or whomever's partnering with you, and guess what? You got to show up every day. And there's days that you don't want to show up, right? There's days you don't want to answer your phone. There's days that you're like, man, I don't want to deal with that. Like, but you have to.
I think that's something to explore too. Is I think a lot of people, and this is what the book says. Call it whatever book. There's a lot of real estate books out there. You start the team when you're feeling that pain of being stretched too thin, I guess, right? You start with your leverage and all that type of stuff. So I get that burnout is sort of a part of it, right? Burnout is sort of one of your catalysts for starting a team and wanting to expand and stuff. I think it's really, really important for you to explore what you're burned out with, though, right? Like, if you're burned out with certain things, understand that starting a team is going to put more of that on you, right? And that's why I think it is so, so, so important to explore the amount of leverage and the type of leverage that you already have, and maybe add to that as well. The reality is you could be very happy doing 100 units a year as an individual agent with 2 or 3 pieces of leverage. And I don't think people realize that is also possible too. I do think it takes a special type of crazy person to run a big team. And so I think if you're burned out just on certain things, it might be a little bit difficult to really lean and pour into other people.
I think the biggest key here, whether you were to go and start a team or you were to stay an individual agent, is that leverage support, right? Even more so than the leads, right? If you have, if we were to have Justin Nelson come back on here, right? Justin Nelson would Never. With Sphere Rocket VA. And we were to say, Justin, in fact, I saw him do a live video today that talked about if you like doing your own social media post and just posting several times a day to stay in front of your database. And he's like, you must be a psychopath, right? And he's like, if you learn the right leverage where you could be everywhere at any time. Brian Fox is listening right now. He's got 4 VAs that's working 24/7 basically. He said he closed a deal last time I talked to him a couple weeks ago. He closed a deal at 1 a.m. or his VA did, right? Yeah. Made him while he's sleeping. He's making money while he's sleeping. So what does that look like if you were to start a team, or if you were to, Brian Fox just commented on here, leverage equals freedom. So if you were to have the right leverage points in place, here looking back, you guys had it a little bit, or Brian did, because this is what Brian was great at doing even before partnering, even better than what I sucked at, right? I didn't believe in the VAs. You embodied that from day one, is that if I had the VA leverage points, I would be a $250 million company.
We've had, and I've been working with the same VA. We have several VAs now, but I've been working with one for 6 years now. And if people knew the amount of leverage that she provided, honestly, we've hired half of their family now. If people knew the amount of leverage that was provided by really unbelievably talented people in that space, they would think it was like cheat codes, man. It's just, I don't think people believe in the VA model enough, and that's bananas to me. I think also it's a reflection of how good you are at training people.
I was going to say, number one, and that's where I sucked at, right? I hired VAs. Now, the problem was I hired VAs through these other companies that were costing me $12 to $15 an hour. And I'm like, $12 to $15 an hour, I could go hire. I built out that call center.
Yeah, run some Craigslist ads and find some people for that.
I had a call center at $10 an hour. right? And that was in person. Yeah. And so, I was like, I'm an in-person guy. I like to read the newspaper, right? Whatever type deal. I'm like, I'm not a VA guy. That's for the modern agent.
Nick's just sitting there with his New York Times, just like
the ink on his fingers.
I love it. I'm telling you, I love it. I don't like reading the news off of.
I do like the way the newspaper smells.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But number one is if you have that leverage piece down, multiple pieces. Think about this: if you had 15 VAs right now,
okay,
you're paying $3 to $4 an hour. So let's just say $4 an hour, right?
I mean, that's gonna be $50
$70 an hour.
So 15
Totally.
times 4 is 60.
$60 an hour.
So 60 an hour.
English major, not math major.
I said
guys.
50. He said 70.
So that's 2,400 a week, 124,000. So 125,000 a year for 15
That's
VAs.
70. Shut up. If it's $4 an hour, did you do 3 or 4?
I did 4.
$4 an hour
Times
for
15?
15. That's $70.
no,
60.
you're just wrong, bro.
Nope,
It's
I'm
60.
super wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait,
I
wait,
got
wait.
real aggressive
Here's the
there
thing,
too.
I'm gonna tell-
I was really sure I was right.
I almost believed you. That I was
That's
like,
the
whoa,
power
whoa,
of
wait.
persuasion.
I was like, the calculator's telling me 60.
I read the art of the deal, and it told me just
I'm
to
gonna
be
tell you, it's
just
kinda like-
double down.
It's kind of like, you're following the GPS and you're like, no, you should have turned left.
Yeah.
And Matt's, Brian's like, no, it's right.
You're like,
it's right.
Should I have turned into that graveyard?
I am going to repost this damn video next time it comes up my memories. But 2 years ago, I had that Michael Scott moment where it legitimately was like, "Don't turn down or said turn down this road." But there's a sign on the road that says, "Don't turn down here." I got 200 yards down that road. It was so sloppy. I had to back up. Wheels were spinning. The live video is me backing down the street as I'm doing it live, and like, guys, I just followed the GPS into like a dead end when the street told me there was no street there.
Just to let you know, on that breaking news, Showing Time will remain an open platform available to all industry participants, and we expect to grow Showing Time's engagement through all channels.
That actually disappoints me because if they closed off their channel, then that would open up a market opportunity for us to just create.
But then someone else
we'll create Showing Time with a Y, TY.
Then someone else made sure to let me know on that same thread. It will remain an open platform until it's not.
Until it's not. That
Right.
is so poignant by the Facebook commenters.
It really is.
So I'm just letting you know.
God,
Do
for
you
that breaking
legitimately
news.
think that Showing Time's technology is so proprietary that someone couldn't replicate it if they...
I always love it when people comment stuff that just sound like really stupid Southern sayings. Like, we got to get good, but we got to get great. You're like, what the fuck are we talking about, dude?
First off, I've never heard that, by the
No,
way.
that's the whole point.
Okay.
Is you don't have to ever hear it. It just made it up.
It
and
just sounds like it should be a thing.
something an old Southern
Yeah.
man would say.
So I want to go down a little bit further on that leverage piece, right? So you're starting to build that team out. You got the leverage piece.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the don'ts for the next, right? We talked about we're not just hiring,
Right.
just anybody and everybody. We've all learned that.
Don't spend fucking money you don't have. This is like, I'm getting revved up today. I got so many opinions. That will kill your team right away. I think a lot of people that we've been fortunate. We're not a statistic in the sense that we were both kind of failing at this for a while. I know I know more people that have failed at building teams than I do that at being successful at building teams. And I think one of the common characteristics is they think they can buy their way into value. It's not what it is. You want to hire talent, and talent does cost money. I get that. But if you think that bells and whistles are going to help you attract talent, they don't want that. They want leverage. The bells and whistles are cool. Like, I'll be 100% honest. There's a whole box of bells and whistles sitting over here that we just went out and got today. But we've grown to that, if that makes sense, right? You have to earn your way into trying crazy stuff and being innovative, From the ground up, you need to really, really be disciplined. Lead with revenue. Say no to a lot of things. And when I say no to a lot of things, say no to the things that you're not positive will work. And I understand you can be absolutely positive that anything will work, but I can be positive that if I hire the right person to manage transactions, that's going to take care of transaction management. If I hire the right person to do this, that, or the other thing, if I get good at aligning myself with the right people, I'll at least have a value proposition. I don't want to go ahead and go, you know what, if I spend $5,000 on this. That'll help me get 3 more agents. And if those 3 agents can do 20 deals a year, then I'll like stop doing your napkin math. You know what I mean? Before you actually have the money to do it. So I'd say step 1, lead with leverage. Step 2, lead with revenue as well. Don't go for all the shiny toys right away.
And I think a little subline of 2 also is don't allow agents to convince you that they need all these things to join you, right? I think one of the things you do when you're desperate is you start allowing like, and again, I'm not going to talk about production numbers because they're different for every person. I don't think your production has, but there are agents who are bringing value to the table and there are agents who are bringing problems to the table. And if you have somebody who hasn't even partnered with you and they're already just have a laundry list of demands, and honestly, their production doesn't back that up. And if you're a new teammate, if you're a new team manager, owner, runner, whatever,
Person.
chances are some $9 million producer is not going to look up and be like, I really got to have what you're selling, right? Like, the reality is you're probably partnering with people at first who are going to need some help. Make sure that they're in the right mindset, because the brand new agent coming in with a list of demands to join you and then you acquiesce to those demands, shit show every time. Every single time.
What if they only demand blue M&Ms?
Oh, like Van Halen?
Is that what he did?
They
That's
made
Van
sure
Halen,
that-
right?
Yeah, they had like on their concert rider, they always had like
Yeah.
peanut M&Ms. They didn't even like them. They just want to make sure people read the
People
rider.
read the
Yeah,
contract.
right.
Yeah, 100%.
If I'm a new agent, that's what I'm doing. I'm just letting you know. I'm going to have a list of demands. And
That here's the deal. That never really ends. To kind of speak the different levels of this, you know, you're going to attract people that have really developed a business, that they're joining you for one reason or another. As you grow, one of the challenges as a leader does become, you know, what do I do for this person because they're already very, very productive? What will I say yes to and what will I say no to? And there have been, you know, this is one of the things that Matt's fortunate now that he doesn't have to have these conversations too much anymore. But there are a lot of this is one of the things that falls on me in our business. I've had to have some pretty tough conversations with some people where I'm like, look, I want to partner with you, but you're kind of overreaching here, you know, and you like. And I think that's something that you can scale down to even when you're starting out. Don't give the farm away.
Yeah.
Just because people attach their name to you, don't give the farm away. If you're so obsessed with people joining your business that you'll do anything to make that happen, maybe that's not the right time for you to be starting a team. You want to be really, really solid in what you're already doing.
I think when you when you have your policies, you've got your duplicatable systems down. And look, your systems are going to be ever growing and ever evolving.
They
My
should, I hope
systems
so.
today,
But they should also be real systems. The reality is, if she doesn't have it here, she keeps it home, I could ask a lady right over there to show me the book. There's a fucking book on
Yes.
how our business works. It's about this thick now. But we should just, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but to say when you talk about systems, I actually mean like real systems, like documented on paper stuff.
yes.
Yeah.
So mine's Google Drive. So I've got mine in Google Drive. It's
Whoa.
not as, I guarantee you.
Wait,
you
didn't
know,
Nick just say 20 minutes ago that he was not? That was for the modern agents.
No, not
Exactly.
Google Drive. Not Google Drive.
He's up on Google
Yeah.
Drive.
It was scanned in from handwritten notes, by the way. I can go show you our Disney vision.
Your Disney
that was
vision, yeah,
that was.
for
I
sure.
think you saw it, right? I think we did it when we were allowed to do in-person presentations. But something that I know that lady does really well is go back to episode 94 and go listen to that. That was an amazing episode. But I know her book's going to be very detailed,
Yeah.
right? Down to when she probably clocks out for lunch.
Got that from the E-Myth.
Yes, right? So you've got your systems, you've got your policies, you've got your standards in place, but do you have an exit strategy? Do you have where do you want your team vision to go, right? So ours is a path to 100 million. We don't call it a goal, we call it a path, right? We did just a hair under 60 million last year, so we still haven't we're still on the path, the journey. And if you know what that is, a lot of people are just like, man, I just want to make money. Right? But how are you going to sell that vision? Like, what's the vision to your
Yeah.
team? Your team has to buy into the concept.
Money's also relative too.
Yeah, like there's some people who's cool with making 50 G's, and I'm like, and they hit their number because you have the right tools and systems, and guess what? They coast the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, well, I'm wasting leads and opportunity because they're probably round robbing or hoarding those leads because they're still doing their lead gen, but they're not really doing much for follow up. They're doing their initial outreach. And then they're putting it, and now you're having to have those difficult talks. But you can't go and have the talks about money because they're happy with the money they make, right? And you can't say, well, why don't you want to make 100 or this or that? Because now you're projecting your goals.
They don't want to.
Yeah, your motivation on them, and they don't want that.
Ours was really telling too. We have a coach that coaches a team every week, and we did an exercise a couple of weeks ago where people just had to kind of throw out their numbers, and it was really telling just to see. And I feel like everybody on the team did a really great job of representing themselves, and everybody's number was different for the most part and had different reasons behind it and different things they wanted to accomplish. And it was really telling, because I had that moment that Nick was talking about. I wanted to project onto other people who maybe were like just comfortable. They're like, look, this is kind of what I need to do. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, but don't you see? You could do so much more. Right?
Well, and that I think leads me to another piece of actionable advice as well that I think we've learned along the way is whoever you partner with, understand you're going to be spending your life with these people, hopefully. And I don't mean that in a weird or bad way, but just we sometimes get in this mode of growth, like, party, just keep recruiting, it can be a big challenge to partner with someone and then after the fact realize that they're probably not, I wouldn't say culture fit, but they're not a life fit for you. You know what I mean? Everybody's a little bit different and things like that. And so just to speak to that, right? Like, that can be one of the things that I would advise people on is, like, in the sake of growth and things like that, make sure you're also you're on brand, right? Like, one of the cool things about our business is that we got really lucky and we're very blessed, but we kind of had this vision from the beginning that we were just going to do things a certain way. And if it worked, it worked. And if it failed and blew up, like, kind of weren't going to be worse off than we were before. But we really never wavered from that. And I never wanted to. I would be so much happier running a smaller business that I get to be me in than running a very, very large business that I have to pretend to be someone else every day. And I don't know how that translates to everybody as far as actionable advice, but it's just something to keep in mind that, like, if you want to start a team, especially because you're kind of burnt out on what you're doing, understand that the only way to not be burnt out is to really enjoy what you're doing. And the only way you're going to enjoy what you're doing is to be able to be yourself. So don't be shapeshifter. Don't shift around.
I can tell you
to
that.
please other people.
I can tell you, like, if you go look at our team, we don't shapeshift.
You guys
right?
are very close. We're really close. And I don't know if everybody's that way, but I mean, like, I know how you've been with your team for years, and that's kind of what we have now too. It's like we're really close with pretty much every agent on the team, right?
And we don't let everyone in because one, our team is we're not going to want to have to hold back certain things that we say and talk about because we're worried that we might offend that person and they'll leave, right? So we want to attract very similar style, very that same passion, that drive. And typically what we were doing before when we were bringing on a lot of team members, because that's changed a little bit. Our vision, our plan has also changed a little bit from wanting to expand really, really large to now having it to where we have our network, and now it's more so like, all right, we used to run people in for the first 30 days. The goal was to get them to quit, right? So it was kind of like, hey, we would bring everybody in because we weren't burning a lot of leads.
You had the structure around it.
Yes, the structure to make them, to show them how difficult this was. And we knew that we were probably going to have 80% of them quit, right? And then the other 20%, we'll see who the producers are. And from that, usually there's going to be just one or two that actually stick, right? And so that's a tough model to do as well, unless you have your systems in place. And if you're not running a profitable team, then you probably are going to get burnt out on that because it's Groundhog's Day every day and every month.
I think that's one of the things we haven't even touched on yet. To be really, really being mindful around taking a lot of these lessons to heart, understand that when you kind of ignore some of the stuff that we're saying and just want to grow, it's very expensive to bring on the wrong people. If you want to really blow your bankroll, partner with anybody and everybody, and you'll find real fast how expensive it is to bring people on that aren't a culture fit or aren't the people they said they were or whatever. Like you'll start to appreciate very, very quickly the processes that go into identifying people that are good partners for your business. That was a big mistake we made in the beginning. We spent a lot of money on people that didn't show up.
And I think you can through your recruiting efforts. This isn't as hard to do as people think it might be, right? Like the reality is through whatever medium you're recruiting, because this is where I want people to expand their minds too. Don't just think that recruiting for, especially when you're recruiting for your own team, has to come through some specific model. Brian and I did it through classes, right? I will tell you, in my world, leading and coming from contribution has always been what Brian and I have been. This podcast is a perfect example of how the three of us feel about this. Sure. Right? Like the reality is this podcast was originally started as an opportunity for us just to talk about what we're doing, and we figured some people would get some benefit from it. Now 2 years later, it's something that we all really enjoy doing. There's all these other benefits to doing it. The opportunity to talk to guys like Tarek, and
We got better mics.
yeah, high level people, right? And get to ask them our questions. Now there's all kinds of really sweet benefits to it. But there was a long time where we weren't getting anything out of this.
No, we were costing us money. What are you talking about?
That's
Like
the
we
thing.
were in the hole every month.
Yeah, I mean, so like I think if you look at building your team kind of from the same perspective, will it be slower? Yes. But it'll also have all these other cliched things that we talk about. Your foundation will be wider, the roots will go deeper. You know what I mean? That's really true.
And to speak to that, like that, as far as cliches go, that might be another great piece of actionable advice, is kind of the mindset around this. Start your business expecting to fail. And then from there, find a way to fail forward. Because if you just think things are going to work out, I promise you'll be disappointed. It's one of the things that we've done relatively well with, even what we're doing here at the Podcast and Tour Academy. If you guys ever can find it, I don't even know if it's posted anywhere. Our first webinar, how to take 10 listings a month, and just the train wreck that was. We were supposed to start
Touracademy.com/take10.
somewhere. It was supposed to start at 6 p.m. on a Sunday, which we didn't even realize at that point it was like the worst time to do a webinar because we're so uneducated. You're like 5:59, the cameras are not working at all. Like at all. Like it's just a train wreck. But here's the thing: we kind of all knew that. We kind of all knew that this wasn't our forte. We kind of all knew that this was going to be a learning process for us. If you get really dejected in the beginning because things aren't working exactly the way that you want them to, you'll get washed out completely. So take that vision you have for the business you want to build and then crumple it up a lot and then unfold it again. And that's probably what it's going to look like. Like it'll still be intact. You can still cash the check, but it's going to look kind of fucked up in the beginning. You got to be okay with that.
But have someone poke holes in it, because
Yeah.
what I see, and Brian Fox just said, and give your team the freedom to fail, right? I think
Absolutely.
that's, I know how many people were like, man, I knew I should have just done this myself. Like I wouldn't have screwed it up. Like, well, no shit. Like you probably messed it up the first time and there was no one else to chew your ass out because you're the boss, right? So, but I see too many times people think they have the genius idea, like I'm going to do this with the team, and I'm like, poke holes in it, right? Sometimes they're overpaying for their people, and then you look up and you've got this team running, it's not profitable, you're actually losing money. In fact, you have to produce just to pay the bills. You're hardly making anything, and then you go to try to change your splits, and guess what happens? They quit, right? Because you took away they got used to something, right? Because you waited too long, and now you're pulling the rug out, right? Because you didn't poke holes in it.
It's like the first 6 months of a relationship, right? Like everybody's just slightly dishonest for like the first 6 months. I'm like, I'm not going to show you really what
Not
kind of
farting in front of each
what
other
a
yet.
slob I am until like you're totally locked in, right? It's the same kind of thing. I think that the way you need to look at this, and I'll just because Brian's totally amped today, I'll back off of what he said a little bit because I don't think you need to go in expecting failure. But I'm on my second time through Can't Hurt Me by Goggins, and he says something in chapter 8 where he's talking about like you just need to know that at some point on your run you're gonna bonk, right? Like at some point you're gonna completely want to quit. You're gonna have the reason to quit. You probably told yourself 50 times to keep going, and now you're like, look, I've kept going. Like it really is time to quit. You just need to go into it expecting that stuff to happen, and then just being. I will say I was never mentally prepared to push through it, but I've always pushed through it. I'm still here. Like I still right now feel like the next catastrophe will just derail everything, right? For me, that never goes away. But knowing that there's going to be challenges and those not being totally surprised by them takes the edge of the fear off, and then you're not reacting so ridiculously, right? Especially when reacting out of fear, because that's what I do. I'll sign up to anything to get me out of immediate pain. I told this story one time. I had a kidney stone a couple of years ago. I legitimately called an ambulance and took a ride to the hospital to pass my kidney stone that ended up costing like $1,500. because I just wanted to be out of pain, and I did not care in that moment what the cost of it was, right? And, if you're running your business that way, you're screwed, man.
So on that note, if this is valuable, and this better be, because this is stuff this is the do's, the don'ts, the successes, the trials, the errors, the failures that we've been through on our personal teams. And I would say we're doing pretty well. Wouldn't you say? Just average.
2020 was our best year in real estate.
Yeah.
You know?
So
I don't want to get a big head or anything, but I am happy with what's happened.
yes, right. But here's the thing: it's the consistency to push forward, the not letting our egos get in the way, being humble, knowing that hey, there's going to be some shit coming. The storm is going to come. There's always going to be a storm that we have to weather, and we just got to push through, right? So if this is valuable, tag an agent in this, share this out, go over to the Only Real Estate Group worth being a part of, and then go to iTunes, leave us a review so we can. I really need those reviews up there on iTunes, right? We need those bad.
Please.
I know.
Not even going to say please anymore because I've said it and they're not doing it.
Yeah.
So go do it. Do it right now. Matt?
I will say please. Please go do it. Jesse, run that under my beautiful face. See ya. Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the Only Real Estate Group, with being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one, and then go to that one. Thanks.